Hello, Booktube. Hello, friends. Welcome to Lizziefaye Loves Books. I'm Elizabeth. And in this video, I'd like to share with you what I read in the month of September. Now, right now, it is Sunday evening, October 6th, and I normally would not film at this time of day. I don't have the best lighting for evening filming, but we are facing an upcoming hurricane pretty soon, and I would just like to get this filmed so I can get my library books returned and all of that, and have a few videos to upload in case our electricity goes out or anything like that. So my heart still goes out to all those people who were in Hurricane Helene, and daily my prayers go out for them because people are really suffering a lot from the devastation that hurricane caused. But we've got another one coming, and it is looking like we are more in the direct line for Milton than we were for Helene. So we're just getting prepared, and one of the things I wanted to do was just get this video filmed. Even though in the big scheme of things, this is not the most important thing I could be doing. It's evening, and I may as well just go ahead and get this done. So I read 31 books in the month of September. I only got 7 of my 60 by 60 books done. Not even close to what I wanted to do for that project in September, which means I still have 31 to do in the month of October, but I've already, I think, finished 3 of those, or I'm on my way to finishing 3 of those. So hopefully I'll still be able to finish that project. But for the month of September, I had 21 of the 31 that were audiobooks, and then that left 10 that I read with my eyes. 3 of those 10 books were ebooks. And of the genres, there were 4 that were nonfiction, 7 were crime or suspense, not cozy, and then 8 were cozy mysteries. 7 of them were either dystopian or sci-fi or fantasy, and 4 of them were just general fiction, and 1 was a romance. I read 2 books for book club, and I read 5 books for the ABC challenge that I'm still finishing 3 years later. That was a project for the Killing Time with Cozies group, but only 2 of them counted. It's because I needed to read a particular book for V, but I had 2 other books in that series to read first. I listened to those on audio, and then a similar situation for W. The book I wanted to listen to for W, I needed to read the one before it as well. So those accounted for 5 of the cozy mysteries that I read or listened to. And then I guess the others were the ebooks that I read. So anyway, it was a good month for mysteries all around. And so let me just show you real quick what I read, and I'm going to make this super quick because I don't want to have to take super long editing, and I just want to document this and get these library books returned and all of that. So if you want to know any more about these books, let's chat in the comments, and let's get started. So the nonfiction, I already actually mentioned this one in my August wrap-up because this was like the very first thing that I read in September, and I had listened to another book about the Dust Bowl in August, so I went ahead and brought this up at that point. But this was really good. Children of the Dust Bowl, and it's the true story of the school at Weed Patch Camp by Jerry Stanley. It was excellent. I also listened to a finance book. I found this in our church library. Someone else had donated it, and I found it on audio, but I went ahead and brought home the physical copy. It's on Hoopla. This is Dave Ramsey's daughter, Rachel Cruz, and I had not ever read any of her books. I've read a lot of Dave Ramsey's books, but this was very good. It's called Love Your Life, Not Theirs, 7 Money Habits for Living the Life You Want, and I really enjoyed that. Then I also finished up one of the Daniel Plan books. This is the Daniel Plan Jumpstart Guide, Daily Steps for a Healthier Life, and it just has a little page, couple of pages for your first 40 days of the Daniel Plan. So I have already read that. And then the very last book I finished up, technically, I didn't really finish reading this thoroughly until the first couple of days into October, but I did skim through the last 100 pages or so on the last day of September so that I could count it as a September book, because this is one of the library books that I need to return. But this is one of the Gladys Tabor books from the Still Meadow series. It's called Still Meadow and Sugar Bridge. This is epistolary. It is Letters Between Gladys Tabor and her friend Barbara Webster, who is also a writer. And Barbara's husband, Edward Shenton, is the illustrator of most of Gladys's books. And it was delightful. I absolutely loved it. I gave it 5 stars. I'd give it 10 stars if I could. I just thought it was fantastic. And now, not only would I like to read more Gladys Tabor, I would like to find some of Barbara Webster's books because I really enjoyed reading her letters as well. And so that was all of the nonfiction. The 2 books I read for book club, one was a crime book. Actually, they kind of both were, but one I just counted as general fiction. This is All the Sinners Bleed by S.A. Cosby. If you've ever read Razorblade Tears, this is the same author. This was about a black sheriff, I think the first black sheriff of his county, just dealing with all the racism and the crime that is just run rampant in his county. I thought it was very good. It was gritty. I can't really decide if it was more gritty or less gritty than Razorblade Tears. It was just very compelling, but definitely a lot of foul language and just very raw. This also had a lot of foul language. Yellowface by R.F. Kuang. This I didn't love. Mainly because the main character did something wrong at the beginning of the book and spent the whole book trying to justify it. And I'm generally not a fan of that premise, but still it was interesting. We read it for book club and it was an interesting discussion. A couple of books I had bought for my daughter Katie, she read a couple months ago and she said, okay, I'm done with these. You can trade them back into the bookstore. And I found them both on audio and I said, well, let me listen to them first while we still have them. And they are both by Kiera Cass. This one is The Betrothed, and this is the first in a series. There's not too many written in the series, maybe just 2 or 3 right now. I don't know if it's going to be a longer series or not. I enjoyed this. She said before I read it, she said it's pretty much like the other Kiera Cass books that we've read, and that's not wrong. But still, it was enjoyable. Now, this one she didn't really care for, and I really liked it. It's called Thousand Heartbeats, and I just thought it was very good. Both are kind of medieval type fantasy stories, and I enjoyed them. So let me go ahead and show you the other crime books. I did listen to another book in the Skink series by Carl Hyacin. I can remember to put the books this way since the only lighting I have is over here. This is the 4th book in the Skink series called Stormy Weather. Just a hoot, still some foul language and not cozy, but just funny. I did listen to another Reacher book, really enjoyed it. This is A Wanted Man. Before this one and after this one, there were some novellas or short stories, kind of short novellas. And the one that's before A Wanted Man is this one. And then the one that's after A Wanted Man is this one. I cannot remember the titles right now, but hopefully you can see those, and I'll try to put the number of what number they were. Both of the short stories, I believe, can be found in the book of short stories called No Middle Name. So if you are interested in reading any of the Reacher short stories, you can find them there. But some of them are available on audio, like the 2 that I listened to last month. And one of the crime books that I listened to was also on my 60 by 60 list. This is the first in a series that I really enjoyed. And I think all of this series is on Everand, and I definitely plan to continue the series. This is A Borrowing of Bones by Paula Meunier, and I really enjoyed it. Now, this says local author, but she's not local to me. Someone brought this book to our Christmas book exchange for book club a couple years ago, and I was the recipient of it, and they had gotten it in another state. I'm not even sure where this author's from, but I did really enjoy the book. So let me show you the other 60 by 60 books that I finished. I finished The Lake House by Kate Morton. I did kind of a low-key buddy read of this with Mitzi from Mitzi Reads and Writes. We both just kept putting it off for a long time, and finally we got around to it, and Mitzi ended up finishing it before me, but we did chat about it on and off as we read it. It took me a full 2 months, and I listened to this on audio, but it is a very chunky book, and I was trying to listen to and read several other things, so that's why it took me a while. This was not our favorite Kate Morton. Both of us have read a few others by her, and I'm not sure what Mitzi's favorite is. Mine is The Forgotten Garden, which I still say is just great. But this was good. It was just a little bit predictable and very slow. Then I also read Passenger by Alexandra Bracken. I listened to this on audio. It's one of my 60 by 60 books. I have to admit, this was right at the end of the month, and I really wasn't paying close attention to it. I might at some point go back and revisit this and then go on to book 2 of this series. I think it may just be a duology. Anyway, it was enjoyable. I just didn't give it my full attention. And another one of my 60 by 60 books is The Road by Cormac McCarthy. This was gritty, but I did enjoy it. Not my favorite dystopian book, but still definitely worth taking a look at. This has been on my shelf for a long time, and I'm glad that I finally got to it. And then the last of the sci-fi or fantasy books that I read with my eyes 2 versions of Return of the Jedi. The main adult version, this was the movie novelization, and then I read the junior movie novelization. And I forgot to read the little golden book of Return of the Jedi. It is still sitting in there in my cart. It's at the top of my Goodreads want to read list, and I forgot all about it. Anyway, I'll get to it this month. I did pick up a few other Star Wars little golden books, and I will try to read all of those with Emily this month, or at least some of them. And then another kind of little fantasy children's book that I read is the Spiderwick Chronicles, Care and Feeding of Sprites. This was kind of fun, but it was a little troublesome to me because it was talking about collecting and keeping sprites as pets. Yet, when you look at them, they're very humanistic. I don't know if that's the right word, but they're very human looking, a lot of them. Not all of them are. But they definitely have human characteristics, and it would just seem kind of weird that you would want to keep them as pets. So anyway, it was cute though. I am going to put this with the rest of my Spiderwick Chronicles that I have listed in my eBay store. I had found this at the bookstore where I work, and I went ahead and bought it, and I knew that I was going to read it and add it to that lot if it hadn't sold by the time I get around to it. So anyway, it was cute. It's a companion book to the series, and I'm glad that I read it. For Cozy Mysteries, I listened to 3 books from the Campers and Criminals series by Tanya Kappas. I'm going to show them to you because I don't trust myself to say the titles. I mainly wanted to get 2 of them done so that I could get to the V book for my ABC challenge. I enjoyed all of those. And then I listened to 2 books in the Vintage Kitchen Mystery Series by Victoria Hamilton. I listened to No Mallets Intended. I think this is book 4. And then White Colander Crime is book 5 because I wanted to use this as my W. So now for that challenge, I only have X, Y, and Z to go, and I will finish it. So I do have a goal to finish that challenge by the end of the year. And then I had 1 romance book. It was a Colton book by Marie Ferrarella called Second Chance Colton. Now, I did a little experiment. I found this. This is one of the Coltons of Oklahoma series, and I did this as a nod to Sarah because she was reading one of the Colton series as a read-along this summer, and I knew that this was not part of the series she was reading, but I knew that I didn't have time to read that whole series. I didn't want to take time to read it, and I found this Coltons of Oklahoma book at the store where I work, and so I picked it up and said, okay, I will read this as just a little nod to Sarah's read-along. But I thought it would be fun, just as an experiment, to read this without looking it up to see where it fell in the series. Now, y'all know I am a read in order person. I do not like to read out of order. But a lot of times people say, yeah, but with romances, a lot of times you can read them out of order and it's no big deal. So I just was determined to pick this up and read it without knowing how many were in the series, what number it was, or anything. So when I read the introduction, there were several other couples mentioned as part of the Colton family. And I thought, okay, those couples probably had books in this series, and so I know this is probably not the first one. Then I noticed that there was a mystery, kind of a suspense type mystery that was brought up in this book that wasn't quite wrapped up at the end, and I could kind of tell near the end that it was not going to be wrapped up, and I thought, okay, it's probably not the last book. This is probably an overarching mystery that has been occurring throughout this series. So I thought, it's probably book 5 out of 6 because it feels like it's nearing the end of the series. There was already at least 3 or 4 couples that were mentioned. Without going back and counting, I just kind of had that in my head. I was exactly right. It was book 5 out of a series of 6. Did I call it or what? It was just a fun little experiment. Now, I will say that even though this was book 5, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I did not feel like I was missing out on anything. But the thing I did miss out on, because I didn't look it up, is that I didn't realize I could have listened to it on audio, on Hoopla. This whole series is on Hoopla, on audio. So I will be going back, starting at the beginning and listening to the entire series. I may even listen to this one again just to pick up on little bits that I missed. But I'll be able to get them on audio. So it was a lot of fun, and I'm glad that I did it. And it was just, something to try, something different. And, I'm glad that I did. I'm going to jump in here. I forgot to even mention the Scooby Doo Readathon. I did do some rolls for that right near the end of the month, like the last week of the month, and I managed to squeeze in a couple of books. A couple of the books that I read were for the Scooby Doo characters, but I'm still working on it. I picked books from my 60 by 60 challenge, so I will do my best to remember in my October wrap-up to say which books counted for which of the Scooby Doo prompts. But that was created and hosted by my friend Sonia from Sonia with an I, and she had some other co-hosts. It was such a fun readathon. I had just already had all my reading mapped out before I even knew about it. So I did manage to squeeze in a couple of the prompts right at the end of the month, but I didn't get to give it my full attention. And for that, I apologize to Sonia and everyone, but it was really neat, and I wanted to just give them a shout out. Well, I've got to jump in one more time because I thought I had this video done and I was taking a photo of everything I read for the month. I like to do that for Instagram, even though I haven't posted on Instagram in a couple of years. But I realized I neglected to mention these 3 books in my video. So this is a whole trilogy by Karen Gillespie. It's the Bottom Dollar Girls. All 3 of these books are in my 60 by 60 challenge. The first one is Bet Your Bottom Dollar. The second one is A Dollar Short. And the third one is Dollar Days. This is one of those Southern fiction trilogies that would have probably been better for me if I had had time to just read them in print, because the narrator, I don't think, was an actual Southern girl. She was just trying to do the narration in a Southern accent. She didn't know how to pronounce Augusta, Georgia. She kept pronouncing it Augusta in all 3 books, and I could not understand how no one corrected that after the first book. But anyway, I mean, there were other things, but that was just the main thing that just kept pulling me out of the story, because apparently these books take place near Augusta, Georgia, because the characters kept going to Augusta, which was pronounced Augusta, which is not correct. Anyway, let me just get back to the business of showing you the books. They were cute. They were just fun Southern fiction, and I enjoyed them for the most part, and I'm glad to check these off my list. So that is everything that I read in the month of September. Have you read any of these books? Let me know in the comments. Let's chat about any of these books that you would like to chat about, even if it's something you're interested in reading or something you want to know a little bit more about. So that's all for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you're having a great day. Read a good book, and God bless you.